Hi, this is Jewel Staite, and you're listening to the FSF podcast.
The show where we found headphones and some microphones and said, shiny, let's be bad guys.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 124. She'll know that when she puts on the red shirt and joins the crew of Serenity on a heist, hopefully without Yosaf Bridge or whatever her name is, that she didn't leave her family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has her back, and what's left of her Mandarin swear words.
All right, guys, our guest today is an actress who has entertained many folks throughout her careers on shows like Family Law, Stargate, Atlantis, and of course, Firefly. But I also appreciated her guest appearances on shows like Castle and Con Man. And by the way, if you guys haven't watched Con Man, what are you doing with your lives? Please go watch Con Man. I laugh so hard. I've watched that series a couple different times. Anyway, I'm getting off on a weird alternate route over here, but those shows are just as memorable. Guys, we are so proud and frankly excited to welcome Jewel Staite to the FSF podcast. Welcome to the show, Jewel.
Thank you so much, you guys. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. We're just as excited.
Yes.
Exactly. What she said. So, yeah, before we jump into anything nerdy here, which that is coming, I'm sure. Nick is our resident Stargate nerd, and I'm sure he's brewing up something for you. And Kathleen's, I know, has something Firefly waiting in the wings. But before we get
my hair like Kaylee for no reason.
Well, yeah. But I wanted to talk to you briefly about something else, because I literally discovered this 2 days ago and I was like, where has this been? Oh my God, this is awesome. I like how your eyes get real big because you're like, oh,
I know.
God,
I'm like, what's out there that I've forgotten about?
I did not realize that you had a blog.
Yeah.
And I started reading things and I was laughing. I was very entertained by this blog, especially where ducks were concerned.
Yeah. True story.
However, what I'm curious about is, where did you get the idea to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to put things out on a blog, and where do you draw your inspiration from? Because your posts, honestly, that is comedy gold. Good stuff out there.
Oh, thanks. That just means you get me. People don't, it's so weird.
Well, there's been a lot of things, honestly, before you answer, just real quick, there's been a lot of things between your blog and your Twitter page where I'm just like, yeah, I get that one. Because especially the conversations you've been having with your son about a few different things remind me a lot of me and my boys. And I'm going, oh, yeah, so it's not just me. Okay, cool. All right,
most of the things my son says I can't post.
Understood.
He's on, you know what I mean? He's on a roll right now. He's 7 and totally insane. And hilarious. But I started the blog a long time ago because I found myself in this, hiatus from some sort of show, and I never know when it's going to end. You never really know when you're going to go back to work. And I thought, I have to do something for my sanity, really, and find a new passion and figure something out to do on my time off. And I love to cook. I love to write. And I thought I would pair those two things. So I started nice and slow, and then it just became this really cathartic thing for me. And I love to do it, and I love to update it, and I cook and post recipes, and sometimes I don't post recipes at all, and I just go off on a tangent if I'm feeling tangenty. But it's fun, and it's just sort of a release for me.
I get that.
Yeah.
I had a blog years ago, and I started originally for the same thing. I wanted some way just to be able to talk about things that I really wasn't sure how to talk about, or if anybody would actually understand them. And so, and then it went from that into just my random thoughts about odd things people wore to grocery stores and, other things like that. And it just became I kind of went with this lane. This is where I'm headed with it. And then it just took a very quick and broad stroke to the left, and and then it just kind of dissipated.
Yeah. I think, the trick is to just sort of forget that people are reading it in a weird way. I feel like that's when I'm at my best, is when I just stop caring about what everybody's going to think about it, and then just come from a place of authenticity and honesty. And it's also always been really important for me to I guess just be myself and have myself out there, because I play these different people for a living. and you know, and I think people forget that actors are people, and we're complicated people, and artistic people who need some kind of other outlet to get some of that creativity out. And actors have a lot of downtime too. I was talking to, you know, a friend of mine who was saying, she's on family law with me, and another actor approached her and said, "How's the show going? You're so lucky. You're so lucky to have that show. I would love to have a show." And Janelle said, "Well, it's not all it's cracked up to be, because you basically work for 3 or 4 months out of the year. And then the rest of the time you're sitting at home under contract. So you're not really allowed to do much else, twiddling your thumbs and hoping that you still have a job at the end of this hiatus." I guess really anxiety inducing, and actors tend to be really anxious people. So, you know, the distraction definitely helps for sure.
You know, that's actually a really interesting idea, because I guarantee that 9 out of 10 people rather don't really understand the, you know, the gap in the workload.
They don't get it.
No, because I honestly,
you know, and like there's
Yeah.
1% maybe of actors in the union who are working all of the time, right? Who are probably getting too much work and they're exhausted, but they're afraid to say no, right? Because if you say no, then, you know, maybe people will stop asking and stop being interested in you. It's a very strange business, and it can be really, really hard on you. So I feel like it's just this constant battle of trying to find balance and trying to enjoy the time off when I have it. Because when I'm working, it's all consuming, right? And I'm not home enough, and I'm not around my kid enough, and I'm sad about that. I'm feeling mom guilt and all of that stuff. But then when I'm around here, I'm like baking cookies and like trying to entertain this 7-year-old who's mouthing off to me constantly. You know? It's like, what happened? Don't you know I'm a big deal? He's like, no, you're not, Mom.
You are Mom. Where's the cookies?
Yeah, he's like, make me a sandwich, will you?
Exactly.
Oh, so I have also found
together.
yeah, I have also found your TikTok to be incredibly entertaining.
Thank you.
I love it. And honestly, it was so funny, is like the first one of your videos that showed up in my FYP was you just correcting somebody for the, no, of course I look different. That was 20 years ago.
I get that.
And I'm like, oh snap. Follow.
It's a real thing. It's a thing that comes up again and again. And not just to me. Lots of actors I know get the same thing, right? Like,
yeah,
I've done a lot of conventions, and when you're sitting at the autograph table, people will come up and blurt things out that you just kind of have to take.
How dare you age like a normal human being?
They're like, you look different. And you go, thank you.
Rude.
What are you supposed to do?
Right?
Yeah.
But as I have been
I'm just stuck double filling in today.
right?
I know, right?
As I've been following you, I actually found your video where you sorted your cats into their Hogwarts houses. Which
that's when you know I need to go back to work.
I love, because I also did that. I have a Hufflepuff and a Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
And my tuxedo cat is my Hufflepuff. And like, I told my husband that I had looked at this TikTok, and he's like, "Is Ernie a Hufflepuff?" Yes.
It's accurate. Yeah.
100% yes.
Yeah, it pegged our little one as a Slytherin straight away, and I went, yeah, that
See,
tracks.
and that was what you said, was that it was the most accurate thing you had said, or you had seen. So 100%. I am going to be the weirdo that then asks about your cats, because now I need to know their names and what it is about their personalities.
I talk a lot about my cats, and you know, I've been told maybe you talk too much about your cats. I really roll. We have this older one, this 2-year-old. They're both rag dolls, so they're, you know, super cuddly and affectionate. And anyway, I felt bad for the older one, for Alice, because she would sort of stare out the window, and we got her this kitty tower, this kitty perch thing, and we're big House of the Dragon fans. So my husband Charlie would say, "There's Alicent in her high tower."
I love it.
And we thought, you know, she needs a buddy. She needs a friend to kind of harass her and keep her life interesting. So we got this little white one with these big pale blue eyes, and she's a hellion. and, chases her and knocks her off the tower. And so Charlie was like, can I name this one? I said, yeah. And he said, I think we need to call her Rhaenyra. So now we have Alice and Rhaenyra, the dueling queens. And what can I say? We're a nerdy household, and that's just who we are, man.
That's awesome.
Absolutely love that. So my older cat, my 6-year-old cat, is also a Game of Thrones related name. She's Nymeria.
Oh, perfect.
But she's Nymeria Patrice. So her middle name is based off of How I Met Your Mother, which is even better.
Yes.
But then my tuxedo cat, who is my Hellion, is Ernest Fitzgerald. So he's named after F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway.
That's pretty classy.
He is, because he's a tuxedo and he's supposed to be fancy. He needed a classy
name, yes.
But then he sits like Al Bundy in my hallway. He'll sit and he's got his paw across, and I'm like, dude, if you had pants on, that paw would be in the front of them. Like, that is just how he sits. I'm like, I gave you a fancy, classy name, and you sit like Al Bundy. That's just rude.
He heard you.
But did he score 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter? That's what I need to know.
No. So my 4-year-old has started just calling him Nern. And I'm like, yeah, that fits better. I gave you this big fancy name and now you're Nern. But I love that you have Alice and Rhaenyra. That's great.
Yeah, our little queens. Yeah, and the hierarchy changes on, a daily basis, but Rhaenyra definitely has a lot of fire in her. So she's very appropriately named. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then our dog is Firefly named. She's Zoe J.
That's a great name for a dog. I mean, Kaylee would be a better name for a dog, but that's a great name for a dog.
Kaylee is a fantastic name for a dog, and we actually fostered a pit bull that her name is Kaylee. So my friend Anna has a pit bull named Kaylee who is best friends with Zoe Jane.
Okay, I'll take it.
Kaylee's awesome. She's awesome. Her full name, though, sorry, Tim, I know you want to talk about your pets too.
No, you're fine.
Anna's dog, her full name is Kaylee Ann Rose Barkowitz III.
God, that's a lot of names.
It is. And it's so funny is if you actually get mad at the dog and use all of the names, she drops to the ground like a little kid when you use their middle name.
Well, yeah, she's confused at what language she's being yelled at.
Like, what did you say to me?
She's usually
too many
just
orders. I don't know what to do.
She's usually just Kaylee Ann, but every once in a while the whole name comes out and it's like
I took Rhaenyra to the vet for her first little checkup because she's just a baby. And they asked me for her name, and I got embarrassed, and I didn't want to say like Rhaenyra, so I said her name's Ray, and she was like, Ray, and I'm like, yeah, it's Ray, because I was so embarrassed, just so stupid. And also, like, I didn't want to have to like spell out Rhaenyra in the vet's office. I was like, I gotta get out of here. This is just
that's awesome. I love that.
Colors. That's like a couple years ago when our oldest cat got sick. He got some infection around his eye, and his like eye got all puffy. He got scratched or something. And so we took him to the vet, and they're like, what's his name again? I said, Vader.
That's a great name though.
Which is, it's fitting. He's all black, got a white box on his chest. He's a bit of a jerk. Yeah. So it was just, everybody that kept walking in the room, we're like, what's your cat's name? Vader. I'm a Star Wars fan, so his name's Vader.
That's cute.
I've heard some pretty great names when I've been waiting at the vet's office, though. Like,
oh yeah,
I have I know. I have a friend. His dog's name is Hunter George Bitehouse.
That's good.
And the dog that they had right before him, his name was his name was Kevin.
Kevin.
I'm like,
just Kevin.
You have Kevin, and then Hunter George Bitehouse.
Well, we've got Toast. We have a corgi. Her name is
Toast. That's great.
Right. But her full name is Ms. Toaster von Strudelbutt.
Right.
So,
of course.
Because she is fancy and she's highly judgy.
And she's a corgi and she's got a little loaf butt.
Yeah. But they're like cute little bubble butt.
Yeah, with about a 3-inch vertical leap. That's about all she's got.
She tries her best.
Aw.
She's also like toasted marshmallow colored, and she's like a little puffy cloud.
Cute.
Yeah, she is.
Sorry, I snuggled with Toast so much last time we were at your house. Like, you belong
she's still
here
waiting
now.
Yeah. She's waiting for more, trust me.
Oh yeah.
Cute.
So Jewel, I didn't even realize that you played a Wraith in Stargate Atlantis. That was I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. And as I looked closer, I was like, oh, it is you. And so, granted, it is easier to hide behind a mask. But
Mhm.
even so, when I watched like other characters that you have done, I don't realize that it's you. And I
Oh,
really
good.
appreciate that. And like, I love it when an actor can like not be themselves, I guess you can say.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what is it that you do to prepare for a role? And like, what is your process?
I mean, it's not. Thank you for saying that, by the way, because that's the thing that every actor wants to hear. It can be a little tough to come up with a character's personality on the fly. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that we get these scripts right before we start shooting. You know, we don't have months and months to prepare usually. Usually it's very quick, especially in television. So you just kind of have to come up with certain quirks and things that they would do with their hands or expressions they would make or things like that, the feelings that they would have about certain things, make bold choices and hope that the producers and the writers appreciate what you're trying to do, right? And if they do, you'll get the job. But prosthetics and wardrobe definitely help. I mean, anytime you look different than who you actually are is very helpful. But it's different every time, and I think I just sort of start to try certain things and maybe get inspiration from people I know. Abby from Family Law has this really kind of biting sense of humor, and she hides a lot of her insecurity behind the sense of humor, and she can be quite crass. And my dad had this really crass sense of humor and this sort of delivery that he would use. So I've started to do that with Abby. And luckily they liked where I was going with that. But you basically you take risks as you go along, and then you kind of find it as you go as well. And it's a process. And I think that's why I love doing television so much, because you usually, not always, but usually get a longer time to explore that character and figure it out. But I don't have a super complicated process. I know actors who do, and I totally appreciate that. But I could lie and say that I do a lot of research and all of that, whatever. I don't.
So you didn't go through and find all the parts of a spaceship?
No, God, no. Sets also help get you in the mood. Believe me,
Right.
When you're on a realistic looking set, that can be very helpful.
So what was some of your inspiration like behind Kaylee?
I mean, she was very, very well fleshed out. I remember before we started shooting the show, we were given a Bible of sorts of all the things that we should know about the world of Firefly. And all of those characters had pages and pages on them about the things they loved, things they hated, their motivations, their, everything basically. And so that's very unusual to get something like that. And it was incredibly helpful. So Kaylee from the start came from this place of innocence, but also honesty. And she was just not embarrassed. She was never embarrassed to show that honesty and to just sort of wear her heart on her sleeve. And she loved machines, but she was super feminine and super girly. And she was really smart, but she was also kind of, still trying to figure herself out and gain that confidence, that she was a 19-year-old kid, right? She was still trying to figure it out. And she was full of love, and her sole kind of motivation was to show love and to come from a place of love. And I knew that. So it made entering any kind of scene, playing her very easy, because it was such a pure motivation.
I think that's why she's such a lovable character too, is anybody who watched Firefly as a 19-year-old, as a teenager, looked at Kaylee with oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I get her.
Yeah.
Well, it's me, but it's not. But you felt like understood on some level. And I think that was why I related to her so much with I'm a girl. I'm a girly girl. But at the same time, I want to go out and have a lightsaber fight with my friends, or I worked at a mechanic. I was out there chucking tires with the guys. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this. It's fun.
Yeah. She was pretty great. I mean, they were all so beautifully written, all of those characters. They're all so different from each other, and it doesn't seem like, putting them together would work. But the beauty of that show is that they only worked because they were with each other.
Right.
It's a reluctant family, but it was a family, and it was lightning in a bottle, really, because it was just the perfect combination of characters to really sell that world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you just said was kind of interesting, because it made me think that there's such a juxtaposition in some of the characters. Like on the one side, you have Kaylee, who's so pure and innocent and just very genuine. And then you have Jane, who is the complete opposite, and is rough and tumble and will do anything for a buck, and just, I don't know, it's just, I think that's, and then you have the characters in the middle who are a little bit of go each way, depending on the moment, but and then it's very much
like, even James. So he was such a well-written character, because he was rough and tough. He'd do anything for a buck, unless it came to Kaylee. Right? It was the only time you ever really saw a softness in him. One of my favorite shots in the whole show was from the pilot, when Kaylee's been shot and she's being operated on, and he's watching. He's kind of crouched down and he's watching through the window, worried, really genuinely worried. There's all these little silent moments, right, throughout that show that speak volumes about who those people are.
Understood.
I didn't write it. Obviously, I got lucky. I had a good audition. I got lucky there. But I can still, all these years later, watch it and appreciate it, and kind of marvel at, I don't know, the beauty of the writing of that show, really.
Yeah, understood. So let's follow that up with another Firefly question, since I had one in the waiting in the wings.
Sure.
Now I have to be completely honest. I only got into Firefly within the last year and a half.
That's okay.
Yeah, and here's the reason why. And it's maybe not, it's probably faulty logic, because I initially refused to watch that in the movie because there was only 14 episodes. Clearly, how good could it be?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I was like, they canceled after 14 episodes. How good could it be, people? I was wrong. It's freaking amazing. I have never been so happy to be so very wrong in all my life. But I look at this now, here it is, some 20 some odd years later. The brown coat community is large. It's very strong. It's gaining people every day over here too. So what is it about the show? Obviously you've talked about the writing, the character development, things along those lines, but what is it about the show that keeps people coming back to it, watching it over and over again, cosplaying it, talking about it, hoping that somehow, some way there's a return to the verse?
I don't know. I've always thought maybe it was because we were the underdog from the beginning, and there's that whole the one that got away notion about it that bothers people and makes people hang on to it so much. It feels like unfinished business, right? It's world that was halted quickly. And even with the movie, we got some things answered, but the movie ended on a note of what happens next.
Yeah.
So I feel like that has given the brown coat movement momentum. But I don't know. The rest of the cast says this too. We don't question it.
Fair enough.
Ride this beautiful wave, and we have this family of people around us that have been with us the entire way, and it's a beautiful thing. And I don't know. I know that a lot of us, would say most of us, it was a short-lived show, of course, but we have such beautiful, positive memories from it. And then all of the things that happened after. We got on this convention train and started riding the train with each other and traveling the world with each other and doing that for 20 years. We're close. We have a Firefly group chat that goes off all the time. And, cool. we are very tight. We're a tight-knit family who has been through a lot together, and will always support each other no matter what.
That's very cool. And I think too, I look at the success of your guys' show post cancellation, and all the things that it's gone through post cancellation, and the fans that have flocked to it post cancellation is to me a better recommendation for the show than shows that have had seasons and seasons, but yet they don't seem to attract people.
Sure.
They're kept on because they have decent ratings, but there's not really a groundswell of fans around them. Like, even so in our Facebook group, which is about 200, just shy of 210,000 members right now.
Wow.
The brown coat memes are strong in that group.
All right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The word shiny is used often, and I try to use Gorham and Rutten just as often as I can. But yeah, to me, that's the biggest difference between what I see in the brown coat community versus what I see in some of the other fandoms, is that there's such a love and adoration for this thing that even though it burned hot, it burned bright, for a short time, but it left in a very indelible mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's quite something. Like I said, there have been many, many times where we've marveled at it and gone, wow, this is pretty crazy. This is still going on, and people still care to hear, the same stories, right? I mean, we do Q&As and panels together, and I know I recognize faces in the audience. I know these stories, but they're still there laughing and,
Sure.
still enjoying it. And it does mean a lot. So, we are grateful. I know that a lot of the browncoats have followed us to other shows and support us in other things that we've done. And that means a lot too. It just feels like they've got my back, and it's pretty awesome.
I've seen the show many times. Like, it's one that I will regularly watch on a year-to-year basis. And every time I watch it, it still runs a spear through my heart. Sorry, too soon.
All right, how do I get Nick out of this group chat? Where's the boot button?
No, see, and that's I get to the point where I watch to the end of the show, and I'm like, I could watch Serenity, but Wash, I can't. I'm gonna stop here.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's sad. It's sad.
It is. So, unlike Tim, I have been a brown coat for years. My husband was actually cosplaying as Mal when he proposed to me.
Amazing.
Which was great. And it's funny, I was actually dressed as River Song because I had the hair for River. So we had this Doctor Who Firefly crossover. That was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then the dinner music at our wedding reception included the Firefly and the Serenity soundtracks, because that just makes great dinner music. It really did. And it was so funny, as a number of our friends that are like, is this Firefly? Like, yes, it is. Just wait, it gets better. And then we danced to a Muppet song for our first dance. It was a very nerdy wedding. It was great. Also, our friend introduced the wedding party at our reception to the impressive clergyman speech from Princess. So.
Oh, wow.
There was a lot, but it was great.
Genre mashup.
Oh, it was so much fun. But I actually just rewatched Firefly earlier this week I'm gonna get to talk to Kaylee, because that's who I am as a person. Like, there's no hiding it. But I got to what is by far my favorite episode, and I'm like, I need to talk to her about that. I need to talk to you about Shindig.
Yeah.
Because of that dress.
Mm.
So did you get to help choose the dress, and did you love it as much as Kaylee did?
That dress was sewn. It was made by Shauna Tripchick, who is our costume designer. She's incredible. So it was made, and I was very excited at first to wear it because I was always in the coveralls every day. The shirt would change sometimes, but for the most part, I was in the coveralls. So I was super excited to wear something new, until I had to move around in it, or go to the bathroom or anything like that. Sit in a chair, because of the hoop skirt. So they would prop an apple box on the sound stage, and I would sort of perch on it. So I think by day 2 or 3, I was super over it. And there's a scene where we come back to the ship and Badger is there.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice when we're sitting around playing cards, I'm back in the coveralls and I'm not in the dress anymore. And it's because I batted my eyelashes on set and said, please, I don't want to wear the dress anymore. Can I just get the coveralls? And Joss said, that doesn't make any sense though. Like, why would Badger let you change? Do you know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't let you leave the room and go and change. And I said, I know it doesn't make any sense. Please. And I said, okay. So that's why Kaylee changes her clothes, because I was so sick of that dress.
Oh my goodness. That's great. And it was so funny when I was watching that episode the other day, and you guys are actually at the party, and there's the scene where the prissy nasty girls walk up to you, and you're totally excited about how wonderful this party is, and there's some sort of hot cheese over there, and I'm like, cheese. So I'm like, I wonder do you actually get that excited about cheese and strawberries as well?
Not so much strawberries, because strawberries I feel like are not that unusual. I don't know. They're around. I can have strawberries whenever I want.
Right.
Cheese I have a big issue with. I will eat it until I'm sick. That's sort of what it is. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Big fan of anything cheesy.
I love that.
But you know,
melted cheese, yes, please.
The cheese crust even is the best.
Oh God, yeah.
And my son, who I know is my biological son because I saw him come out, said,
you were there.
he said, I don't like my grilled cheese tonight because the cheese is too melty. I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, when I bite into it, the cheese strings pull away and I don't like that. I go, that's called the cheese pull. And a lot of people work very hard to get a proper cheese pull in a sandwich. He goes, I don't like it. I'm like, okay, great. Thank you so much. So I guess it's not hereditary, but I, for one, love cheese.
Which is funny because my daughter is the opposite of that. There have been days where my daughter has just eaten a bowl of shredded cheese. Like,
really? Yeah, my kid, I don't know. He's weird like that. I don't understand.
There have been days where I'm like, I need you to eat something today.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
anything sound good? And she's like, just cheese. I'm like, okay, do you want me to? I've got string cheese. We've got block cheese. Do you want a grilled cheese? No, I just want a bowl of shredded cheese. I'm like, all right, let's go. You're eating something.
That would be me.
And it's protein.
Yeah,
and then there's my daughter who has a milk sensitivity, but it's like, hey, let's make macaroni and cheese. And then she gets out, like she doesn't like fancy mac and cheese. She wants boxed Kraft mac and cheese.
Yes,
that's
delicious.
her jam.
Yep.
And then she takes the shredded cheese and puts that in on top of it. Doesn't matter what type of shredded cheese we have in the house. She puts that in there to make it extra cheesy so that when you pull your spoon out of the bowl, you do get a proper cheese pull off of that.
That sounds really good, though.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
yes. So she does that. She'll doctor it all up. So
I need to make homemade mac and cheese again.
I know. That sounds so, I love mac and cheese. It's so good. And this is all I do, like on my hiatus. I just sit around thinking about what I'm going to be for dinner.
Right? Well, and my husband,
worse things.
My husband has decided that this weekend is going to be a Lord of the Rings marathon weekend. And I'm like, sweet. Go to the store, buy a roast, buy potatoes. I will make a big roast and potatoes for tomorrow night. But now I'm sitting here with you. But now I want mac and cheese.
I know. That's what I want too.
But I have a roast.
What time is dinner?
No.
We all have something that is close to our heart, and surely many of your projects hold a special place in your heart. But what is a project that you have worked on that you wish had gotten a little more love?
I did this show a while ago called the LA Complex. And it was the CW, it was a Canadian show, and the CW picked it up momentarily and aired a little bit of it. We did 2 seasons of it. And it's one of these shows that whenever anyone finds it, anyone I know finds it, they say, I caught this show. I'd never heard of it, but it's so good. It's so smart. And I loved it. So it's one of those that no one watched. but I think is just really, really smart. And Martin Garrow was the showrunner on that show and the head writer on that show. And he's brilliant in everything he does and a good friend of mine, which is how I came to be a part of the show. But it's this darker side of Hollywood. That's kind of the thing. That's the theme of the show is these struggling actors and dancers and singers in LA trying to make it and super broke and just sort of living these disastrous lives. And I thought it was really fun. It was just this juicy, fun kind of depiction of the underbelly of the entertainment business.
And it's added to my watch list.
You can find it somewhere. I don't know. I mean, people find it, right? I don't know where anything is anymore. And people are like, oh, hey, I saw, blah, 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 on whatever. And I'm like, great, cool. That's good.
Well, there's like 12 billion streaming services now, so you'll find it somewhere.
Exactly.
So
We got rid of cable to get 12 million streaming services.
And then pay the same amount as cable. So
I know. I think we're going to get rid of cable too, because we're wondering what the heck do we have it for anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I never watch anything on, I stopped watching anything on live TV except for sports. I'm a huge hockey fan. So I'm a Red Wings fan. So I watched a lot of Red Wings hockey. But even at that, there's an app for that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
There's an app for that. I can watch it. I can stream it on any of my Apple TV boxes, my Roku's, whatever. It all works. So
yeah. I think we might take the plunge and do that. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we ended up doing. But we're almost back to a point of paying the same amount we were paying for cable TV because
I know with all the streaming, I know that's what happens.
So that's how they get you. Anyway.
Yeah, and some of them are increasingly ridiculously expensive, which is stupid. I mean, I snagged the HBO Black Friday sale.
Oh,
and I'm like, sweet. So I've got it for $1.99 a month for like it was for 6 months. I'm like, this is fine. I can do that. That's fine. That'll save me a few bucks.
Love it.
But then it was but BritBox, which is $70 for a year. And I'm like, there goes the money I saved.
Yeah.
It happens.
It happens.
And now a word from our sponsor. Since 1982, Vital Signs and Graphics has been helping professionals with all their image, logo, and design needs. Perhaps you're looking for signs and banners, truck and trailer lettering, business cards, brochures, or other image and marketing aids. Vital Signs and Graphics in-house design studio has you covered. From logos to apparel, start to finish, Vital Signs and Graphics has everything you need to look and feel professional. Call Rick at 231-652-3300. He'll get you noticed. Welcome back to the FSF Popcast.
All right. So Jewel, many times when I see that someone who began acting or modeling at a young age, I wonder initially, because of, just being me, how much of that was the child and how much of that was the parents with their direction and influence. From what I read, you started off at the tender age of 6 or thereabouts. Yes. In the acting and modeling area. So when did acting become important to you as a person, and what were your influences to keep honing your craft?
I think, my mom was very good at reminding me throughout my childhood that, it's just a job. If you don't want to do it anymore, that's okay. But it's a job. It doesn't, just because you're in front of the camera doesn't mean you're any more important than anyone behind the camera. She was really good at like drilling that one home. Because I did a lot of stuff when I was a kid for Nickelodeon and all of that. Right? And then I think I was probably 12 or so when I started doing Space Cases on Nickelodeon. And that was my first series lead. And I thought, oh, this is different. It sort of dawned on me, I think, that it was a job and it could be a really difficult job and a fun job too, and rewarding. But at the same time, it was a career. If I wanted it, it was there. And then I kind of went back and forth throughout my teenage years where, there were some times where I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And my mom would go, okay, we better figure out something else then. And I'd go, okay. And then I would book another show. Never mind, this is great. But like those lulls, right, where I wasn't working or booking auditions were hard. They're hard on your self-esteem, especially when you're a teenager, right? And you're going through all of your awkward phases and things. It can be really difficult. So I think there was a lot of like ups and downs and back and forths with it where, do I want to do this or do I not want to do this? And kind of toying with that. But I mean, I don't think that, well, now I feel like I'm never going to leave. Like I'm like a gangster in this business now, where I'm like, I can't leave. They've
There's
got
only
me.
one way out.
I know. That's how I feel. But it's not for everybody for sure. But I always say that if you persevere, if you don't quit, if you don't go away, eventually they're going to have to hire you. It's this business is just not for the faint of heart. So I feel like it became a career, a job very, very early on.
We have a very large Facebook group. We're at like 209,000 members.
That's amazing. Wow.
It is impressive. And as Tim had mentioned, there's a lot of brown coats in that group. And we asked them if they had any questions for you. And one of them that stuck out to me was from Beverly Donnie Penelope, sorry. She asked, what's her favorite method of space travel? By ship or by walking through the gate?
Oh, well, walking through the gate's a lot easier, right?
True.
But I mean, I'd have to say ship. Make a ship a home. That's what I would want to do. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And the Serenity is such a wonderful home.
Good home. Yeah.
There you go.
I love
There you go,
that
Beverly.
answer.
There's the answer to that question.
A good answer.
It's about the journey for you then, isn't it?
I think so. I'm also a creature of habit, right? I like to be at home. I like to feel cozy. I like routine. That's why I love doing TV. I like working with the same crew for months and months on end. That makes me happy. I don't know. That's just sort of who I am, I guess.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we love stories, and you've definitely given us lots of stories. And one of the stories we don't get as often are the stories from behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So was there like a hilarious moment that you haven't really shared that has happened behind the scenes?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've shared so many of them, especially the Firefly, stories throughout the years.
Well, let's skip Firefly. Let's work with something else.
I mean, the family law cast, we've gotten very, very close, and a lot of them are not local. So I felt kind of like, the one that had to show them the city and, welcome them to our house on the weekends for barbecues and stuff, right? I was like, welcome to Vancouver. I'm going to show you everything there is to do in Vancouver. And we all became really tight, and we started doing these like out of control karaoke nights where, it would start off as kind of chill and we'd have a dinner, and then inevitably at the end of the dinner, someone would go, so karaoke. Karaoke room for hours until 3 a.m. And Brett Kelly, who's one of my favorite people, he's the kid from Bad Santa. Mm-hmm. And he plays our legal assistant who we basically just abuse in the show. He's one of the funniest people I know. He's the person who with one look can make me laugh and ruin a take very easily without even trying. But Brett has this thing where he loses his phone a lot when we go out. It drives me nuts. So the first night when we all went out, I took everybody out for a night on the town. We ended up at karaoke. And at the end of it, we all kind of dispersed into Ubers, said goodbye. And there was no Brett Kelly. And we assumed, Brett was upstairs in the bathroom, whatever. We left him there, which was a bad idea. And a couple days go by, 2-3 days. And, we're talking in the group chat and there's no Brett. And I go, where's Brett? Did anybody hear from Brett? Brett, are you there? Dead silence. And we're about to go to camera. in a couple of days. And I'm thinking, I've killed Brett Kelly. Like, Brett Kelly is in a ditch somewhere and it's going to be my fault. And I was sweating. And then he resurfaced like 5 days later. Hey guys, sorry. I lost my phone that night and I went camping with my parents the next day and didn't get a new phone for another 5 days. I'm like, I'm going to kill you. I thought I had killed you. Now I'm really going to kill you. So now when we go out with Brett, I'm like, where's your phone? Give me your phone. You get your phone at the end of the night. It's like, I can't go through that again. Give me a heart attack. Oh, they're the best.
That is.
We also had this night, I'll tell you another one, where Ryan Lino plays our receptionist. He starts in season 2 and he's so fabulous. And Ryan is Filipino. And he said at the end of shooting last season, he said, guys, I'd love to treat you all to a traditional Filipino meal. And Victor, you too. And Victor Garber goes, oh, okay, well, that sounds wonderful. And I'm proud of him. I'm like, good for you, Victor, trying new things, right? He's like a little set in his ways. I love Victor so much. But I can tell he's worried about it. But he's coming to this Filipino restaurant. And Ryan says it's like a sit-down dinner, but it's family style. And they put all of the food out on the table. So when you get to the restaurant, it's ready to go. All the food is there and you sit and you feast. Sounds fabulous, right? So we get there and we sit down and Victor's like, oh, he's like, where is the cutlery? There is none. You eat with your hands. There is none. There's potato and there's it's the most delicious food. And the look on his face, I'm telling you, was one of the funniest. I took a picture of it. I'll see if I can find it. He won't get too mad at me. But he was so horrified. And he did it anyway. I was so proud of him. He did it anyway, and he ate this whole meal with his hands, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I can't find the picture, but yeah. So basically, our whole goal on that show is to just kind of make Victor uncomfortable, and it really works. And he's such a good sport. I'll post the photo if I find it because I know Victor will laugh.
Oh, that'd be great.
Nice.
Yeah, he's just we're all it's like this family photo. We're all just super happy with food in our hands, and Victor's just he looks like he hates his life. It's the best.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic.
Anyway.
I love when you get into that family group with the people that you're working with, that you end up all having that same goal. You find the one person that you're going to pick on, and this is your goal. Yes. That it's that's
hi Nick, how's it going?
Good.
Okay,
Victor's so funny, and he's very very good about being the butt of the joke, right? The person has to kind of be in on it, and he's also he's like our dad, right? We call him dad. We call him dad in the chat.
Oh,
we're like,
cool.
hey, Dad, you there? And he's like, yep, always listening.
See, and I have the goal of making it so that Tim laughs so hard he falls out of his chair, and we've been this close so many times, and I'm like, oh, come on, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be
one
great.
day. It'll be a maybe.
Oh.
All right, so Jewel, we're at the stage in our show where one of two things happens. We either take our guests through a quiz,
okay,
or we ask a silly question. Today, we're going to ask a silly question.
Okay, I was going to say again
because our questions have been so serious so far.
Exactly. So this probably more serious than anything else we asked. All right. So, in your opinion, what is the most annoying song and why?
Ooh. Oh. I mean, it's Baby Shark.
Hands down. Okay, you won.
Baby Shark. I can't do it. I can't. Yeah. I think that song was banned in our house at one point because I was like, you have to understand, Mommy, my ears are going to bleed if I hear that one more time. Like, okay.
There were some theories that song was actually the summoning of 2020.
Yes.
That makes way
That's
more
what
sense than
started it
should.
all. That's exactly right. That was the curse that was put upon us. Oh my
Oh,
God, worst.
yeah.
Which was
Well,
worse, COVID, baby shark? Yeah.
Yeah, really. Oh my God.
The
What?
very first event that we took my daughter to, she was 6 days old. And it was I just needed to leave the house. And so we went to a friend's graduation party. And the DJ's like, in celebration of John and Kathleen bringing their baby girl, this song's for you, and started playing Baby Shark. And I'm like,
No.
don't do it.
That's absolutely horrible coming out of giant speakers. No. My son has moved on to Metallica and Guns N' Roses. This is his favorite band.
That's
He's great.
fantastic.
Like, you don't want to hear it all the time.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, think about it. If you had to listen to that all the time. So he has headphones that he puts on, and when he gets dressed in the morning, he's welcome to listen to his music, but he puts his headphones on so we don't have to listen to it at 7:30. And he's of course not allowed to swear. But I heard him say in his room, he's listening to a live recording of a Guns N' Roses song. He loves anything on YouTube, Guns N' Roses. And he goes, do you know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die. This rhythm. I was like, with my coffee. My first thing, the sun's not even up. I'm like, wow.
That is the day we're having, isn't it? Oh
I
man,
couldn't believe we were dying laughing. Oh, that's great, man. Yeah, this is why I'm saying it on a podcast, but like I can't post a lot of this stuff on Twitter. People will come for me. Do you understand?
Oh God. I love stories from other parents. I think it's fantastic.
Right? The number of times about yourself.
The number of times that I want to post things that my daughter says, so then I just message it to Tim with the, oh my gosh, and he's like, you're welcome.
I have spit my coffee so many times with some of the things that Kathleen has sent me. And the thing is, honestly, 9 times out of 10, the people who get their panties all in a bunch about things that get posted like this are the people who are the perfect parents because they don't have children.
You're right.
You know?
You're right.
So they don't know what's going on. They've never actually had to raise a miniature version of them that all it wants to do is argue with you about being you. And you know.
Correct. Yes. So. I say sometimes it's like arguing into a mirror, right?
And I was smart. I did it 3 times. I have 3 mini-me's running around.
Oh my God.
I was at my wit's end with my daughter.
I need some vodka.
I was at my wit's end with my daughter a couple nights ago, and my husband's like, so what's it like raising yourself? I'm like, I will punch you in the face.
But it's true.
That was not the time for that.
Yeah, I've you lose yourself, I think, sometimes in these like arguments with your kids, and you need someone from the outside to come in and go like, my husband.
I need a ref.
Yeah. Charlie's like, just let it go, babe. Let it go. This argument isn't going anywhere. I'm like, okay, you're right. I remember being in a grocery store when he was really young in a lineup. And there was this older lady in front of me, and he wanted a candy bar, and he had a hold of it, and he said, we're going to get this too. And I said, no, not today. And he said, yes, we are. And I said, no, we're not, Wilder. Put that back. And he goes, no. I said, put it back. And he goes, no. And now we're like this, looking at each other. And we both kind of got a hold of the candy bar, and I'm like, put it down. He's like, no, I won't. And this lady in front of me sees all this go down, and then wordlessly just starts unloading my cart onto the belt for me.
Oh, I love her.
Nice. Takes care of everything, and I'm like, and I finally get it back from him, and I put it on the shelf, and she looks at me and she's like, I knew you had to win that one. So I was just going to let you win that one and just take care of that stuff for you. I was like, thank you so much. She's like, you're doing great. I was like, thanks.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
I was the kid that was the opposite. My mom would put cookies in the cart and I'd put them back on the shelf. And be
really?
Like, no, we have them at home. And she's like,
yeah, no, there was a day that we were out taking my mother-in-law to appointments, and it was to the point where my mother-in-law and I are both hungry. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to go get food. And my daughter from the back seat, but Mom, we have food at home. I'm like, I am talking about going to Subway or Panera or wherever, kid. And we have food at home.
Isn't that the worst when they say like logical things though, where you're like, you know what? Yeah, you're right, but I don't need to hear that right now.
I wanted to go to Panera, but whatever.
Yes.
You don't want to go get mac and cheese from Panera, and I won't buy it.
He overheard me ordering tacos, and I always over-order. I would rather have more than none.
Solid plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm ordering on the phone, and how many is that? Okay, and then we'll just do one more order of da-da-da. And I hung up the phone, and Wilder goes, it's a lot of tacos.
This kid kills me. I swear to God. The stuff that you have written about him, the stuff that I have read, I'm like, this guy, this is like the world's coolest little kid, because
he's really something.
Yeah, he's got a great sense of humor.
He's got an amazing sense of humor, and he knows it, and then he gets laughs, so it gets worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not going to get any better.
No, so he gets encouraged all the time everywhere he goes.
And I feel like I am just getting into that with my daughter, because she's 4.
Four is like where it begins. Yes.
Oh man, and it has just started to hit, and I'm like, I am in this for the long haul with this one.
Yep.
Because my 9-year-old nephew is still the same, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah. They remember everything too. Like things.
Oh yeah.
No, and they tell people. It's just like He came up the other day, and he said something interesting. He's like, hey Mom, are you like famous or something? And I said, no. Why are you asking me that? And he said, well, there's a couple kids at school that said you're like famous or whatever. And I said, no, I'm just on some shows, and their moms maybe saw me on some shows. I'm just an actor, right? And he said, well, that's what I said. I said, she's not famous. She's just an actor.
Nice.
And my daughter in the waiting room at a doctor's office very loudly one day did the, Mom, do you remember the time you hit me in the head with the, and I'm like, oh. Yeah. I'm like, child.
The worst.
Randomly. And it was like, she walked into the vacuum cleaner as I was pulling my arm back, and like she got hit in the face with a vacuum cleaner. But do you remember hit me in the head with it? I'm like, what kid?
And we'll tell everyone. Yes, very loudly. When he was just before he was 3, he was in that hitting phase, he would like hit us all the time, and we'd go, don't hit me like that, right? Like, I'm going to take this from you. No hitting, don't hit me. So then we were in the grocery store once, and I don't know, something happened, and he said to me loudly, don't hit me like that. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I know. And that is that moment where
oldest,
too loud, I'm like, I would never hit you.
And that is that
you
moment
have to overcompensate
where
at that point.
Yeah, where every little old lady's head snaps. They haven't been paying a lick of attention to you until that moment. It's like,
God, it was awful.
Until you're the imaginary abusive parent, then everybody in the store hears it.
And is it normal for you to have that moment of the I will let CPS take you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Especially when they're 4.
Oh.
Especially when they're 4, you're like, God, please, I can't do this.
At 15, when they're 15 and talking back to you, and you just look at them like, don't tempt me. I might enjoy the night away. So
right.
I told my daughter I was going to send her to her grandma's the other day, and she's like, but Nindy lives with us. I'm like, the other grandma. Mm-hmm. My mom.
There you go.
Sending you across state.
My kid loves his grandmas, so I can't eat like they're and he knows all threats are empty, so he's just like, well, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, she loves both of her grandmas too, but it was I'm going to send you to the one that's 3 hours away, not the one who's across the hall. Like, if I am telling you I am sending you somewhere, it is not to Nindy's room.
Oh. Well, Jewel,
it's an adventure.
They are.
Well,
so
Jewel,
fun.
Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Oh, you guys, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And where can our listeners go to find out more about you and your works?
Well, I am on Instagram at my name. Same thing on Twitter, and I'm on TikTok. Same thing. And I love it there. Weirdly, TikTok's my favorite one. And I have so much fun doing it, and I'm going to try and do it more. I'm still learning. It's a learning curve. And I also have a blog, happyopu.net, HAPPYOPU, that I try and update semi-regularly. And Family Law is going to be airing season 2 soon on the CW, and season 3 after that. And yeah, we're hoping to just keep going and maybe get you a season 4 soon enough.
Ooh,
That'd be awesome.
awesome. Well, we will link your socials and your blog and make sure that people check out Family Law. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, we also want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help our show continue to grow and get more amazing guests like Jewel Staite here today to have these great conversations and funny moments for you to listen to. So please subscribe. It really does help us out more than we can ever tell you. Your subscription means the world to us. But also, we want to make sure that you go check out Jewel's work as well. Honestly, her Twitter page is just comedy gold. Her blog is amazing. And I didn't know she had a TikTok. I need to go subscribe to that as well. That's going to happen in about 3 minutes as soon as I'm done here. But if for whatever reason you are not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is our guest, Jewel Staite. You may say, but yeah. And you may say, but she looks so nice. And that, my friends, that's how she gets you. But once you submit your single copy of your complaint, we, as the objects of your ire, now have to worry if we have wraiths or reavers coming after us. Because remember, folks, she was Kaylee Fry. She was also Dr. Jennifer Keller. She has connections to both camps. So yeah, either way, we're in a lot of trouble. So maybe instead of reporting us, maybe just send us a strongly worded email. We'd like to keep our faces.
And not have a spear shoved through us.
Exactly.
Still too soon.
Still too soon. Way to go, Kathleen.
Thanks again, Jewel.
You guys, you're so welcome. Thank you so much. That was awesome. You're wonderful.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the FSF Popcast. Goodbye.
Ciao.
Copyright 2023 FSF Popcast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Popcast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.